There are no accidents in the timing of life. If these words have found you, it is because a profound shift is already underway within your reality. You have crossed an invisible threshold where possibility begins to harden into fact. Everything you have been preparing for, everything you have silently envisioned, everything you have held in the sanctuary of your imagination is now moving into form. The universe is converging around your intention. While the world may still reflect the remnants of your past state, the deeper truth is that a new chapter has already been written. You are standing in the early glow of your breakthrough. Get ready to witness the remarkable, because everything is now turning in your favor. Consciousness is the cause. Your inner state determines your outer world. Every transformation that has ever taken place in your life can be traced back to a shift in consciousness. Before conditions altered, before opportunities appeared, before success materialized, there was an internal decision to think, feel, or assume differently. The visible world is not an independent force shaping your destiny. It is the mirror, not the source. It reflects the beliefs, emotions, and assumptions that dominate your inner experience. When consciousness changes, the world must adapt, because the outer realm has no choice but to comply with the blueprint held within. This truth remains constant regardless of whether a person recognizes it. Every event, connection, breakthrough, an obstacle is responding to the internal state you maintain. When you fully accept this principle as the guiding reality of your life, you step into a level of creative authority that most never dare to claim. For too long, individuals have been taught to respond to life as if they are at the mercy of external forces. They analyze circumstances, fear potential outcomes, and measure their future by what they see in the present. Yet the present is only a snapshot of old thoughts already spent. It is delayed evidence that no longer represents your current power. What you are conscious of being today determines what the future must become. The mind is the seedbed of every visible manifestation. If you dwell in lack, the world mirrors scarcity. If you dwell in abundance, the world mirrors prosperity. If you dwell in confidence, the world mirrors success. There is no exception or unpredictable element in this law. Once the internal state changes, the external form must follow with absolute precision. One of the greatest revelations a person can encounter is the realization that reality is flexible. It does not impose itself, it yields. It does not dictate, it responds. Your attention is the sculptor that shapes the unseen substance into outcomes and circumstances. The moment you shift your focus, the universe reorganizes itself accordingly. This process may appear gradual, because the physical world unfolds through time, yet the change begins instantly within the realm of consciousness. When you entertain a new assumption, when you embody a new feeling, when you claim a new identity within, the pattern of your life is rewritten. It is only a matter of time before the evidence arrives. Consider a person who has lived for years believing that success is out of reach. That internal belief system forms the foundation of their experiences. They make decisions based on limitation. They choose paths based on fear. They enter environments assuming they will not be chosen or valued. Their life reflects that assumption at every turn. When that same person decides to adopt a new state, identifying as one who is already successful, doors begin to open. People respond differently. Ideas emerge that were previously invisible. The very energy they carry draws opportunities like a magnet. The world has not changed in essence. Their consciousness has changed, and the world follows. Each individual holds this power, yet few realize it. The majority look outward first, trying to force conditions to shift so they can finally believe in better possibilities. This approach reverses the true order of creation. Belief must come before proof. Feeling must precede form. The internal shift is the cause, while the external shift is the effect. When you understand this hierarchy, you abandon the need to struggle or control outcomes. You focus entirely on the one place where your power is absolute, your inner state. To maintain this understanding, persistence is essential. Old appearances often linger, attempting to convince you that nothing has changed. They are simply echoes of past assumptions fading away. Do not grant them authority. Do not let former limitations define what is possible now. Treat the unseen reality you have embraced as the only truth worth responding to. Live from the state of the outcome already fulfilled. Feel the reality of your desire as if the world has already caught up. That feeling, sustained with confidence and calm acceptance, becomes a signal that orchestrates every necessary event. Every dream you have ever held was first a whisper in consciousness. Every victory began as an internal knowing. Every transformation erupted from a new assumption of self. Recognize that this is happening for you right now. The reason you are drawn to these words is because your consciousness has already shifted. The desire for a better experience is proof that a better experience exists for you. The awareness of possibility is the first sign of its emergence. You are no longer bound to former versions of yourself or former versions of reality. You are rising into a new identity that commands a new world. As you move forward, carry this foundational truth as the compass of your journey. Nothing in your outer world has any power except the power you give it through consciousness. The moment you withdraw emotional allegiance from fear, doubt, and limitation, they dissolve. The moment you inhabit the feeling of abundance, love, confidence, and success, those conditions rise to meet you. This is the immutable structure of existence. Consciousness is the root from which every branch of life grows. Honor the cause rather than reacting to the effects. Turn inward for every desired change. Assume the greatest possible version of yourself and dwell in that assumption until it becomes the only truth you know. The world will not fail to reflect it. Everything is turning in your favor because you have already changed within. Reality is just now catching up. Assumption creates destiny. Feel the fulfillment, and it must become reality. Every life is shaped not by what a person hopes for, wishes for, or occasionally thinks about. Life is shaped by what is assumed. Assumption is the emotional acceptance that something is already true. It is the state of belief so genuine that the mind no longer questions the outcome. Assumption does not wait for evidence. It becomes the evidence. When a desired state is embraced with conviction, the invisible forces of life must bring it into form. This is not fantasy or wishful thinking. It is the fundamental creative process through which every transformation occurs. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled first, and then the world reshapes itself to match that state. Those who master this principle live lives that others call miraculous. Yet these miracles are the direct result of lawful mental causation. Most people spend their days reacting to appearances. They look at what is currently visible and let that dictate what they believe about themselves. If finances are limited, they assume lack. If relationships appear challenged, they assume loneliness or rejection. If progress seems slow, they assume failure. These assumptions then lock them into a cycle of repetition. The world mirrors back what they accept as true, and because they continue to respond to those conditions, the same circumstances persist. The moment a new assumption is chosen, the cycle breaks. The external world no longer has the authority to shape belief. Belief shapes the external world. To assume correctly, one must understand the power of feeling. Thought alone has no creative force unless it generates an emotional state. Feeling is the secret that animates mental imagery. When a person imagines their desire as fulfilled but continues to feel doubt, fear, or unworthiness, the image remains lifeless. When they feel the joy of success, the security of abundance, or the warmth of love as if it is already theirs, the desire becomes a living reality within consciousness. Feeling is acceptance. It signals to the mind and body that the change has already occurred. Once the inner system has accepted a new identity, the outer world must conform. Some may wonder how they can feel what they do not yet see. The truth is that the imagination is the gateway. It allows one to bypass the opinions of the senses and enter the realm of unlimited possibility. Through imagination, you can walk into the version of yourself who already possesses what you desire. You can experience the emotions of achievement, the satisfaction of success, the comfort of wealth, and the peace of a fulfilled dream. If the experience feels real inwardly, reality must reveal it outwardly. No power in existence can deny an internal truth consistently felt. This practice requires discipline. The old state will attempt to pull your attention back to appearances. You may hear the whisper of doubt telling you that nothing is changing. You may still observe familiar conditions trying to convince you that the old story is still the truth. Refuse to return to a former assumption. Stand firm in the reality you have claimed. Persistence is what solidifies the new state. The moment you give up emotionally, you re-enter the old pattern. The moment you remain consistent in feeling, regardless of appearances, the shift becomes permanent. Consider the way people achieve success when they have unwavering confidence. It is not confidence that comes after success. It is confidence that produces success. They assume they will win, and because they hold that inner certainty, life orchestrates the events necessary to fulfill their expectation. Others may observe a stroke of luck or an unexpected breakthrough, but the true cause was the internal assumption that preceded it. The same is true in love, in health, in personal transformation, and in spiritual expansion. Assumption determines identity. Identity determines destiny. Every desire you hold longs to be expressed. The fact that you want something means it already exists as a potential reality. You would not yearn for a possibility that was unavailable to you. The desire is a preview of what life intends for you. When you assume the fulfillment of that desire, you align with the version of yourself who already receives it. The path, the timing, the connections, and the opportunities will then unfold in a seamless pattern of alignment. Life does not require effort or force when the assumption is correct. Movement becomes natural, inspired, and guided. There is profound freedom in realizing that you do not need to fix the world to achieve your dreams. You only need to fix your assumption about who you are in relation to the world. If you assume lack, you will search endlessly for what you already possess in potential. If you assume abundance, you will witness it manifest in forms that exceed logic. The inner choice is what generates the outer change. You are never waiting for the universe. The universe is waiting for your assumption to stabilize. So embrace this truth fully. The feeling of your wish fulfilled is not a fantasy. It is the cause of every future fact. When you occupy the emotional state of success, you become the cause of success. When you live internally as one already blessed, the blessings must appear. This is the law that governs creation. From this moment forward, hold the assumption that everything is turning in your favor. Feel the truth of that statement in your body. Experience the relief, the gratitude, and the excitement of knowing that what you have claimed is on its way. Do not look around for confirmation. Become the confirmation. When you sustain the assumption of fulfillment with confidence and composure, life must deliver the corresponding reality. Your assumption is the prophecy of your future. The shift begins within. Transform your perception and the world must transform with you. Every significant change in your life begins long before the outer experience reflects anything different. It begins in silence. It begins in thought. It begins in a private moment where you dare to imagine something greater than what your senses currently reveal. The shift is internal first, and the physical world is always the final stage of manifestation. Many people misunderstand this order. They wait for circumstances to improve before allowing themselves to feel confident or deserving. They try to rearrange the visible without adjusting the invisible. As long as the internal state remains unchanged, the external world must remain consistent with it. The moment perception shifts, the world responds. Reality is dynamic and pliable, shaped at every moment by consciousness and belief. Your perception is the lens through which you experience life. Two individuals can walk through the same environment and encounter entirely different possibilities based solely on what they believe to be true. One may perceive limitations and obstacles everywhere, while the other easily identifies opportunities and solutions. The difference is not in the world itself, but in the interpretation of the world. When you elevate your perception, you elevate your life. The outer world never decides what is possible for you. Your internal state declares what must appear and what must dissolve. This principle remains constant regardless of whether one acknowledges it, but the moment it is consciously applied, a person steps into true creative power. Every desire you hold for improvement is an indication that a greater version of yourself is already emerging. You do not long for what you are incapable of becoming. The feeling of wanting more is the first evidence that more exists for you. The shift begins when you allow yourself to identify with the future version of your life rather than the present appearance of your circumstances. You stop thinking from where you are and begin thinking from where you desire to be. This single adjustment in consciousness initiates a complete restructuring of reality. The people, events, opportunities, and resources that support your new state begin to reveal themselves. There will be moments when the physical world still reflects old beliefs. This is not a sign that nothing is changing. It is proof that change is already underway. The old picture is dissolving while the new one is forming. Many abandon their transformation during this phase because they expect immediate evidence. They look outward for confirmation instead of inward. Persistence is the key. The internal shift must remain stable long enough for the external world to fully align. You do not allow temporary illusions to determine your truth. You allow your truth to correct the illusions. The senses are often unreliable indicators of what is really happening. They reflect only the past, never the present creative act. When you decide internally that you are successful, worthy, abundant, healthy, or loved, a silent command is issued to reality. Everything begins moving to support the fulfillment of that decision. Even if no physical sign appears yet, the change is already accomplished in consciousness. Trust that inner movement. Treat it as undeniable. Speak, act, and think from that elevated state as though the world has already caught up. This inner shift transforms the way you respond to life. Challenges no longer carry the same weight because you no longer identify with the version of yourself who fears them. Instead, you view them as brief passages leading toward the fulfillment of your desire. Doubt loses its voice. Fear loses its influence. You navigate life with a calm assurance that everything is unfolding in precise alignment with your highest good. What once felt like pressure becomes confirmation that you are stepping into greater territory. The most powerful transformation occurs when your sense of self changes. When you recognize who you truly are, circumstances lose their ability to define you. You stop asking whether something is possible and begin declaring that it is already yours. You speak with authority because you understand that creation begins with perception and identity. You no longer identify with lack or limitation. You no longer accept old narratives as permanent truths. You declare your alignment with the version of yourself who already lives the future you desire. That alignment becomes the anchor that keeps you firmly in the state of fulfillment. Every shift in your internal state alters the way people see you, respond to you, and interact with you. Life begins to feel easier. Progress becomes natural rather than forced. A path that was once blocked now becomes clear. Doors that were once closed now open effortlessly. Opportunities that seemed impossible suddenly appear. It may seem like coincidence to others, yet you understand that it is the natural consequence of an internal shift. The world is reflecting your new identity with precision. So allow yourself to rise internally before you see any sign externally. Declare a new truth for your life and hold to it regardless of what appears. Let your inner knowing become stronger than the outer evidence. Feel the success before it manifests. Feel the love before it arrives. Feel the abundance before it takes form. The moment you elevate your perception, reality must elevate with you. That is the law. If you are reading this now, it is because the shift has already begun. Something inside you has awakened to the recognition that your life is meant for more. You are no longer content with the old patterns and limited perspectives. You are standing in a new state of being that demands a new world around you. Trust what is unfolding. Nurture the inner change. Live from the end result with certainty. Everything is turning in your favor because you have already transformed where it matters most within. Faith is acceptance. Persist in the new reality until it becomes unquestionable. Faith is not a hope or a distant wish. It is the conscious acceptance that what you have claimed within is already yours. Faith is the anchor that holds you steady while the world rearranges itself to reflect your inner transformation. Many treat faith as something fragile, easily broken by appearances or delays. True faith does not depend on the five senses for confirmation. True faith remains unwavering even when nothing outwardly supports it. Faith is the internal agreement that the desire is already fulfilled, that the result already exists, and that you are simply watching the external world catch up to what you know in the unseen. When faith becomes stable, powerful, and calm, the manifestation of your desire is inevitable. There is a reason why persistence is necessary. Physical conditions often lag behind the changes that occur within consciousness. Old patterns, shaped by prior beliefs, may still appear for a time because they are residual effects of previous states. If a gardener plants new seeds, the soil may still hold remnants of the old growth for a while. Yet the gardener does not doubt the new harvest simply because the old has not fully disappeared. The gardener trusts the unseen process operating beneath the surface. In the same way, your faith must trust what is happening beneath the surface of appearances. Even if the world still shows you traces of yesterday, your faith declares that tomorrow is already established. Most people fall into the trap of letting temporary evidence dictate their belief. They allow setbacks, delays, or unchanged circumstances to convince them that nothing is happening. They abandon their desire mentally, even while continuing to want it emotionally. This internal contradiction blocks progress. Faith cannot coexist with doubt. The mind must commit fully to the reality it has chosen. There is no room for hesitation or questioning. Once you have decided that your desired outcome is already done, faith becomes the law that sustains it until visible results form. You do not oscillate between belief and disbelief. You choose the truth and align with it consistently. Faith also requires a shift in language and self-concept. You speak and behave not as someone striving toward a goal, but as someone who has already achieved it. You release phrases that reinforce separation from your desire, such as one day, or if it happens, or I hope so. Instead, you declare that it is already yours. You think from the fulfillment rather than about the fulfillment. You embody the identity of the version of yourself who possesses the results. When faith becomes your dominant state, every aspect of your personality reflects the end result. Your energy changes, your posture changes, your confidence changes. This internal alignment becomes magnetic, drawing into your life all that supports your new reality. There will be moments when others cannot see what you see. They may question your confidence or dismiss your certainty. They may argue that logic, reason, or visible facts contradict your belief. Faith does not require validation from others. Faith is the authority. The world always catches up to those who remain loyal to their inner knowing. You are not asking the world to give you permission to believe. You are instructing the world to reflect what you believe. The conviction you hold within becomes the instruction that creation must follow. Every great achievement in history stemmed from someone who persisted despite appearances. The early phases of success often look like nothing is changing. That is precisely when most people give up. The ones who shape history are those who remain committed until the shift becomes visible. It is easy to believe when everything is improving. The true test of faith is believing when nothing seems to move. That is the moment your internal power is forged. That is when the invisible transformation is strengthening. Persistence during these intervals is what guarantees victory. Faith does not fight against current circumstances. It simply overrides them. When faced with old conditions, you do not argue or resist. You calmly return to the feeling of fulfillment. You remind yourself that appearances are temporary shadows, while consciousness is the eternal truth. You refuse to identify with anything that contradicts your desired outcome. The more you remain emotionally loyal to the inner vision, the faster the external world must yield. There is a profound peace that comes from unwavering faith. You stop searching and start knowing. You stop worrying and start trusting. You stop forcing outcomes and start allowing them. Life becomes cooperative rather than combative. You no longer feel the urge to chase results, because you understand that everything you desire is already within your possession. The world becomes a stage upon which your internal assumptions perform their script. You watch with anticipation rather than fear. If you are reading this, it is because your transformation has advanced to a level that requires stronger faith. The momentum is building. The shift is accelerating. Everything is turning in your favor, but you must hold your alignment firmly. Do not look to the world for reassurance. Provide the reassurance from within. Declare your future as present. Declare your desire as fact. Declare your success as inevitable. Persist until the new reality feels more natural than the old. Persist until the desire becomes your identity. Persist until the world has no choice but to reflect the state you refuse to abandon. Faith is the acceptance that your manifestation is complete. Persistence is the demonstration of that acceptance. Hold your ground internally. Remain loyal to your inner accomplishment. Your world is already transforming. Stay in the state of fulfillment until it becomes the only truth around you. Imagination shapes reality. Envision the life you desire, and it must appear imagination is the creative core of existence. It is the unseen power through which every structure, every achievement, every transformation comes into form. Before anything becomes visible, it must first be conceived in the mind. The world you walk through each day is a projection of the images you have repeatedly entertained internally. Buildings rise because someone imagined them. Relationships form because someone envisioned connection. Wealth, success, and personal advancement all begin as mental pictures charged with emotional energy. When imagination is understood and directed intentionally, it becomes the master architect of destiny. The most profound truth you can accept is that imagination is not fiction. It is creation operating on the invisible plane. Many underestimate imagination because it does not produce immediate physical proof. They dismiss ideas that feel too big or dreams that feel too distant. They convince themselves that reality is only what can be currently seen. That perspective limits growth and locks individuals into repetitive cycles of familiar outcomes. The moment you expand your imagination, you expand your future. Nothing new can enter your life until it first enters your mind. Imagination is the door to possibility. It reveals paths you have not walked, solutions you have not considered, and versions of yourself you have not yet embodied. When you allow your imagination to operate without restraint, the boundaries of your life dissolve. The feeling you attach to imagination is what gives it power. A dream without feeling remains a fantasy. A dream with feeling becomes a future fact. To imagine correctly is to emotionally experience the outcome as if it already exists. You allow yourself to taste the success, to breathe in the relief, to stand confidently in the fulfillment of your desire. You interact with the vision as a present reality rather than a distant hope. That emotional involvement is what impresses the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not question whether something is real or imagined. It simply responds to the dominant feeling. When your imagination and emotions agree on a truth, the world must eventually mirror it. There is a profound intelligence at work within imagination. It knows exactly how to guide you into alignment with what you envision. Ideas surface at the perfect moment. Inspired actions arise with clarity. People, opportunities, and resources begin to appear. You do not need to figure out every step of the journey. Imagination not only reveals the destination, it begins constructing the path as well. Your responsibility is to remain loyal to the inner vision, even when the current environment shows no sign of change. If you remain faithful to what you have imagined, life will organize itself to fulfill the mental blueprint. This process often requires silence and sanctuary. Imagination thrives when the mind is still, when external noise fades, and when doubt is quieted. In those moments of inner focus, you can lift yourself into states of being far beyond the limitations of your surroundings. You become the version of yourself that has already succeeded. You embody the energy of fulfillment. Once that state becomes familiar within, it must become familiar without. Repetition strengthens the feeling. The more you return to your imagined reality, the stronger it becomes until it takes precedence over the world you used to know. Doubt tries to interrupt this process by demanding visible proof. It will ask how, when, and through whom your desire will manifest. Imagination does not concern itself with logistics. Its function is creation, not explanation. The details belong to the unfolding process. If you allow doubt to influence your imagination, you weaken the emotional charge and fall back into the old state. Instead, become unwavering in your vision. See only the fulfillment. Feel only the outcome. Let the senses catch up in their own time. When imagination and belief stand united, the visible world is powerless to resist their command. Imagination is also the key to reshaping identity. You cannot attract a new life while holding on to an old self-concept. You must imagine yourself as the one who already has what you desire. You become the successful version of yourself. You become the loved, valued, and respected version of yourself. You become the prosperous and confident version of yourself. As identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. You begin to make choices that align with your vision, rather than habits that reinforce the past. The new identity summons a new experience. Every great accomplishment humanity has witnessed began as a vision in someone's mind. Those individuals were not lucky. They were loyal to their imagination. While others doubted, they persisted. While others waited for permission, they walked boldly in the direction of their inner truth. Their imagination made them believers long before the world saw any evidence. That is how transformation occurs every time. It begins with a single person who dares to imagine more. If you are reading these words now, it is because your imagination is already expanding. You have started to see possibilities that once felt out of reach. You are sensing the emergence of a reality that aligns with your highest potential. Everything is turning in your favor because you are choosing to envision a greater life. Do not place limits on what you can imagine. If a desire feels extraordinary, it is a sign that your destiny is extraordinary. The imagination does not reveal what you cannot achieve. It shows you what is waiting to be claimed. Hold your vision with devotion. Return to it daily. Feel it deeply. Speak of it confidently. Trust that it is already unfolding. Your imagination is writing the story of your future. The more vividly you picture your desired reality, the sooner it will become your lived experience. You possess the most powerful creative tool in existence. Use it to design the life you truly want. Your imagination is not a place to escape the world. It is the place where you build the world that will soon surround you. Everything you dare to imagine is already seeking expression. Allow it. Trust it. Live within it now. The visible reality is shifting. A new world is forming in your favor.